Okay, the next tool that we're going to talk about is a very, very exciting tool. In fact, it's one of my favorite tools. It's known as the Swish Pattern. So, what exactly is the Swish Pattern? Now, I believe it's one of my favorite topics because how many of you have ever experienced a time where you were trying to change a behavior or a state, undesirable state, and you were trying to resolve it by using a method called willpower. Okay, and then what happened?
Fail.
And you failed. And then you say, why did you fail? Because you have not used enough willpower. Is it?
Yes.
And then you realize that no matter how much willpower you summon, it will still lead to failure after failure. So why do you think people fail the more they try to use their willpower? Because all behavior change are unconscious, that we mentioned yesterday. So what the Swish Pattern does is that this is such a remarkable technique because this is one technique that bypasses that logical part of your brain. Alright, the part of your brain that says, I can't, it's impossible, can man, alright, and getting you to the results. Because it is so fast, because it is beyond logic. So basically, what is the Swish Pattern about? So if you have, you see, you want to understand Swish Pattern, you got to understand that whenever there is a behavior that you want to change in your life. For example, yesterday Hassan mentioned about smoking. Am I right to say that whenever, before you even start smoking, there was always a, what? There's always a trigger that causes the whole thing, the whole process to happen. So without the trigger, you wouldn't have ended up smoking. Now the same thing goes for any behavior in life. That for you to do something, that do the thing that you dislike, there is always a trigger. For example, for you to feel angry about certain situation, there must be something that happens. And because the way of you, how you give it meaning, it creates that response. So can I just confidently say that because of this trigger, it creates what I call a connection. Okay, it creates something what I call maybe let's call it response. Response A. A particular response. So for example, for Hassan's case, what do you think is the trigger that creates the response, which is to take a puff? What is the trigger for you?
Boredom.
Boredom. Alright, so this is boredom for Hassan. The response is to smoke. The thing is this, the strange part about Swish Pattern is this, unlike conventional techniques, which basically uses willpower, trying to ask you, why do you actually smoke? Why should you stop smoking? You know what? Swish Pattern goes beyond logical by doing what I call a replacement. So how do you replace? Now basically, if this is the response you are currently getting, what Swish Pattern does is that instead of getting a response A, you can actually create a new response. And we can call it what? Response B.
Sorry. Imagine.
Just simply by what?
If you're bored and you do something else. Something different.
Yes. So that means, okay, okay, by the way, we do agree that trigger cannot be changed, right? We are not in total control of the trigger. The trigger can happen anytime. The only thing we can control is what? The response. But if we use willpower, usually it backfires. So how do we change this? We use a Swish Pattern, because what the Swish Pattern does is that it bypasses the conscious faculty and creates the change unconsciously. The thing though is that Hassan needs to figure out what is this response going to be.
It can be anything, right?
Can be anything.
Yeah, I was thinking.
With one condition. What's the condition?
That it prevents the boredom from happening.
Okay, that means when you understand what this trigger is that creates the response, this response, am I right to say that the reason why you're responding in this manner because there is a positive intention that you're seeking, or we call it secondary gain. Okay, so for you to successfully bridge from response A to response B, you will have to have a similar positive intention. So you have to, okay, simply put it, you have to learn how to preserve the positive intention. If this one does not preserve the positive intention, this may only be a short-term change. Make sense, huh, so far? So now basically how does it work? All these are what I call basically